Good morning. Wednesday morning. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, it is Wednesday. Good morning. Wednesday morning. And we've been going through the alphabet for Mental Health Week. We started going through the alphabet. So this morning we've made our way up to Jai. And I was going to talk about jealousy. And then as I was thinking about jealousy, I then thought I would speak a bit about judgment. Morning, cousin Julie. Hope you're well. Morning, Jim. So here we are, New Lanark, Wednesday morning. Beautiful, isn't it? I'm going to miss doing this every morning. Well, I was thinking that this morning. I'm going to miss doing this every morning. I love that big tree. That's my favourite one. So here we go, let's get started. Oh, there's wee Ralph. Say hello, Ralph. I'm doing good, Jim, thank you. So, good morning. Morning, cousin Julie. Good morning. So, yeah, we've got to Jai in the alphabet, and what I thought we'd talk about would be jealousy. And then as I was thinking about jealousy, I thought I would talk about judgment. Good morning, Mr. Grant. Hope you're well. Okay, so jealousy. The green-eyed monster. Now, we think that we're jealous, if we are jealous, of people, places, or things. And the green-eyed monster comes up. But it says a lot more about us than it does about... it's about our insecurities. So really jealousy is about a rooted insecurity that we have that's pretty much based in fear. So you could try and discern between jealousy and envy. There are subtle differences. I'm not going to split hairs, but jealousy and envy, let's say they're the same thing. Okay, slow starting this morning. Walk on, Ralph, walk on. On you go. Walk on, come on. Right, so, sorry about that. Dog's a bit savage. He's maybe jealous of my dog. So, jealousy. The green-eyed monster. Here we go. So jealousy, when we feel jealous about people, places or things, it says a whole lot more about ourselves than it does about them. It's really an insecurity that's bred from fear that's within us. And it's also about comparing and comparisons. And what I have found interesting about doing these vlogs, which started off as a challenge, was like we just picked a subject which was, we began with A for anxiety, B for borderline, C for codependency, D for depression, etc. And on we went, and we're up at Jai, and well, there's no DSM-5, there's no mental health issue around about Jai for jealous or Jai for anything, right? So I chose jealousy, and as I was thinking about it, walking round to the waterfall, as I was thinking about it this morning, it's so fascinating how, like yesterday, we spoke about the imposter syndrome and feeling like a fraud, and then we're in today and we're talking about jealousy, which I'd probably much rather talk about judgment. But how intertwined all of this stuff is, how there's a thread that I'm finding as I'm speaking about it, which I wasn't aware of before I started it, that's moving round. Morning, Kieran, hope you're well. Now, jealousy, when we're comparing ourselves to other people, now I think pretty much most people will do that. They'll compare ourselves against somebody else and perhaps then feel jealous, and feelings of inadequacy would then surface out of that jealousy. But for some reason there's a compulsion inside us to keep touching the burning hot kettle when we know it's hot, right? So I'm going to move between jealousy and judgment. So judgment is where we're attacking the external world, right? But fundamentally it's where we're attacking ourselves. Now, this is what I was thinking. Good morning, chaps. I'm just vlogging away here. Lovely to see you. We'll see you at 8 o'clock. Are you in? Are you in at 8? Yeah. See ya. Have enjoyed the run. Right, so I knew this was going to be a struggle to talk about this morning. Morning everybody. Right, so jealousy and judgment. Get my head into the game here. Right, so as I was walking along this morning and I was thinking about this, right, I was peeling away the layers of it, and there was a seminar that I did probably last year, and I asked a question: how many of you think you are going to heaven? And out of all the people that were there, say there was 25 people there, there was 3 people put their hand up. And that got me thinking. It got me thinking along the lines of heaven and hell, that construct that was force-fed to us, and certainly force-fed to our ancestors, because that book, the Bible, was indoctrinated into our belief system. Now, less so now because of the evidence of churches and congregations that are actually dwindling. And what it feels like is that people are asking the question around about heaven and hell. People are starting to think for themselves rather than, now I'm very candid in what I say, was the Bible force-fed to us previous generations? Much more less so now. You know, there's few and far between of the younger generations that are choosing church than there was 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago. Okay? Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because it ties into what I'm about to tell you, what I'm about to speak about. So, in a way, people didn't think for themselves. If there was ever an issue that they had, it would get referred to as the Bible. Now, if you look at the percentage of people today that's on prescription medication now, one of the most affluent countries in the world is America, and I think it's somewhere like 60% of the population of this affluent country in America are taking prescription medication, right? 60% of the population is taking prescription medication. Now, let's just imagine that out of that other 40% of people that's left, let's say 10% of those are buying backstreet drugs and illicit drugs. So, illicit drug use and alcohol use is certainly on a rise in our society and in our culture, which is almost like people are trying to make a little bit of heaven or a little bit of hell here and now, rather than waiting for it coming. Now, I'm saying this without any judgment. The reason I'm getting onto this will become apparent. Bear with it. Now, people that are using substances, using drugs and alcohol, they've got a judgment on their behaviour. They're judging themselves for doing that. So, in a world which is undivided, which is completely innocent, right? We live and inhabit this world which is completely divided, yet we still seem to look at it, the majority of people seem to look at that through a lens of either being right or being wrong. Now, that right and wrong that you're projecting onto that world has came from a construct of which you've been conditioned to believe is right or wrong. Okay? So, 25 years ago, I'm with my sponsor. I've shared this story before. I'm walking down through Glasgow. There's 2 young boys in a BMW convertible, both of them with 2 mobile phones. You get the picture. Skip hat, Stone Island jackets, and I muttered under my breath, fucking arseholes, or something like that, right? And my sponsor just let me be, and we went in for a cup of tea and we were chatting away. He said, have you ever been like that? I went, ever been like what? He went, ever been like the guys in that car? And I thought about it for a moment, and I went, Aye, I have. And he says, when are you going to forgive yourself for being like that? Morning, Francis. Morning, Laura. So, I'm going to share another story with you. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need food, shelter, water, but we also need to be seen, met and validated, right? In the eyes of another. Now, it was in Tesco's. I goes into the car park and there's this car with these two young guys in it. They've obviously got a bass bomb in it. They're quite happy with that, and they've got the music up full blast. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And I immediately felt triggered by that. I immediately felt judged by that. Right? I immediately judged that. And it was interesting. This is what happened. So with my newfound knowledge that really what I was judging was myself, I walked over to their car, and they've got this aggressive look because I'm approaching their car, and I chap their window and their window goes down, and I was like that. What tune's that you're playing? They looked at one another. I said, would you mind giving me the name of that tune? It's an absolutely fantastic song that you're playing. And the two of them looked at each other. Aye, no problem. And they wrote it down in the back of a cigarette paper or something like that. I says, it's awesome. Right? And I walked away. See, as I walked away, what happened to the music? They put the music down and they started driving away, and they turned round about, and as they drove past me, they beeped the horn and gave me the thumbs up. Now, what happened in that interaction was, rather than me judging them, I extended a hand of acceptance that I was into the music that they were listening to. And it was just an experiment that I did. And they turned the music down. Right? So, what I'm encouraging people to do at this time just now is look at where we're judging external people, places and things, and ask yourself those questions, even if it's hidden from you at the moment. Where was I like that? Or where am I like that? Because anywhere that you're judging something outside of yourself, you're splitting yourself off. You're creating a divided world rather than a holistic world, which it is. The world is innocent. The world is neutral. The world is actually gender neutral, but it's us that places meaning on it as being something other than it is. So, look at where you're comparing yourself. Look at where I'm comparing myself to other people that might be more successful or less successful. Because then, by doing that, that gives me some form of meaning. What would it be like to be able to have a form of meaning without comparing yourself in this divided world? Now, why did I talk about the story about heaven and hell? Why was I talking about that earlier on, around about the constructs of that? Now, our job as a species is to come to this world and leave it a better place than we found it, right? So our job is to give our children better experiences than we had, giving them a different form of knowledge than we gained, and giving them a better form of love than we got, right? What seems to be happening is that we are not fulfilling that, and we're actually doing the opposite. Okay, we are spending less time with our children. We're throwing them an iPad when they're looking for attention. They sit in the corner and play with their iPad or take your phone, and children as young as 3 and 4 years old are sitting glued to iPhones and iPads, right? We're doing them a disservice. Now, how can you tell that? Because we're surrounded, we are in a world right now where prescription medication, be that from anti-anxieties to antidepressants to illegal drug use to cocaine to illegal Valium, which I've read the statistics on, there's been more drug-related deaths in Scotland through this lockdown because of the unavailability of heroin and the availability of these fake Valium, so people are ODing on them. We're in the clutches of a massive amount of a drug problem, which to me is not a drug problem, it's a disconnection problem. So we've got a challenge in society where people are becoming more and more disconnected because they don't have the ability to be or sit by themselves. Now, if we then pass that on and the generations start to go one step back instead of one step forward, that is the biggest crime on humanity that we could possibly face. How many generations are we away from the generations losing the capacity to actually know the difference between right or wrong in a positive judgment, being able to use discernment, being able to use common sense, being able to have a sense of who they are, what they want to do and how they want to get there, right? Just ask yourself these kind of questions. So anywhere that you're judging something outside of yourself, you're judging something inside yourself. And that's went on in philosophy. It's biblical. He who has no sin cast the first stone. Or, you know, how can I take the speck of dust out my brother's eye when I can't take the plank out my own? So there's many, many areas where we're judging. And the reason that I jumped to judgment from jealousy is jealousy is a form of judgment. And it's an attack on ourselves. It's a place where we're comparing ourselves to other people and not believing that we have got the ability to be like them, or indeed an acceptance that we are like them. So exactly the same as yesterday. What's the quickest way through this? The quickest way through this is acceptance. Start to accept the feeling. Start to roll the feeling. Now, what it would be excellent for is for people to be taught that drugs and alcohol, external things of happiness, we actually have the capacity to create that joy and that happiness through our own neurochemistry, through our own biochemical network within ourselves. And people, places and things cannot affect how it makes us feel any longer when we get to a place of understanding that we are in control of our own chemical factory, if you like. Now, depending on your conditioning and how you view a situation is either going to make you feel good or make you feel bad. The choice is up to you on how you approach that. The power is back in you. You've got the power to go in behind the driving seat. So my encouragement would be start to look at where you're judging external things, and you can't judge something external without judging it inside you, right? Anywhere there's judgment, there's attack. And anywhere you attack something, you feel guilty. Now, as I've said before, guilt works on the nucleus accumbens in the brain. It works on the same neural networks in the brain as heroin, or the same neural pathways. And what a radical concept that would be, that humanity is actually born into a world stoned out of their minds on guilt. So how can our perception be true and valid when we're looking at the world through a lens of guilt and shame? So, as long as you feel guilty and shameful, you're more likely to have to judge in order to give you some meaning, to give you, you're either then caught in a superiority or an inferiority complex that you're going round in circles with all the time, and you stay in a very negative loop. Now, what if we were to lift those judgments, see the world as a neutral place, right? Stop judging anything external, because we've come to a place of acceptance that any time we're judging something outside ourselves, we're judging ourselves. Let ourselves off the hook, become free, take out the intravenous drip that's been in my arm for 47 years of guilt and shame, and stop looking at the world through a lens of being stoned, metaphorically I mean. And as I've said many times before, somebody that's born into this world with no arms and no legs has no construct for what it's like to have arms and legs. They can fantasise of what that would look like, but they actually have never known it. What if we looked at the concept that our own guilt has been apparent from a very young age, and we know nothing other than to look at our environment and judge it in a way, or perceive it in a way, that's going to make us feel guilty, which is going to make us feel separate, which is going to keep us living in a divided world, it's going to keep us in a separated field of consciousness, and there's not going to be any together thinking. Now, we were born with two fears: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. All the rest of those fears were inherited, right? Now, look at it this way. I remember this came up this morning when I was walking. I remember having to read something for a project I was doing. And what it was it was looking at a child that had issues with its bowels. And what happened was the mother was so disgusted by the faeces and found nappy changing such a disgusting process that when she was changing her son's nappy, she was so disgusted by it, thought it was so awful, that the energy that she was carrying towards doing that, she was projecting towards the innocent child, and the innocent child caught that invisible monkey and somehow internalised her disgust around about the faeces, which then internalised itself in a way of being that it turned out that the bowel was bad, and then the child developed bowel issues as she went along. Now, look at this. Imagine a child was born and it had a birthmark on its face, and somebody came in and went, "Oh, you've not had a perfect child," right? And judged that child. Somewhere that judgment was in the room. Mum and Dad's sitting there. It's Granny that says it, right? Mum and Dad's sitting there. Mum and Dad are sort of angry at Granny for saying that, right? And the child internalises that judgment and sees themselves as being not perfect, right? So the way that we are as parents and the way that we are communicating, and I think one of the things that I've enjoyed learning over the years is that verbal communication is a very, very small dialect of how we interact with our environment. I would encourage you to try this as an experiment. Walk around your work in presence, right? And start to sense the person that's coming towards you. Now watch if you walk round a corner. What I was thinking there about a situation that happened to me recently, but imagine you're at your work or somewhere like that and you walk round the corner and you see somebody. Try and read their body and notice if their energy, if you like, tightens up or expands as it sees you. Now, let's relate that to that story that we've all heard around about a dog, and we try and teach our kids this. If you're scared, the dog will be scared. If you're scared of the dog will pick up on that and the dog will act in that way, right? So if you walk towards somebody or somebody's walking towards you that's aggressive, that's automatically, intuitively, innately going to stimulate a response in you, a fight or flight response at an unconscious, maybe even non-conscious level, which sets you up. Now, if you've then got two very angry people in a room, what's going to happen? That's pretty much sure that one's going to leave in an ambulance, right? So look at how we're interacting with our environment based on our internal judgments and perhaps our internal jealousies. Now ask yourself, are these judgments and jealousies creating more unity for me or creating more, let's call it connection, reconnecting to the self, right? Is the way that I'm perceiving my environment creating connection in my environment, or is the way that I'm perceiving my environment disconnecting me from my environment? Now, depends how you look at it, but a disconnection from your environment, the furtherly that you become disconnected from your environment, the more that you have to fulfill that void with external stimuli, substances, clothes, cars, people, places, things, nice things, in order to give you some kind of meaning. Now, if you don't feel that you deserve these things, but you buy these things, then you're actually projecting out a form of, shall we call it, weakness into the world, which is then lining you up to be attacked by the external world because you don't feel that you actually deserve it. That's quite complicated. But starting to look at the world that we're projecting on continually from a place of disconnection is actually going to create more disconnection. If we start to communicate to the world that we inhabit with a feeling of connection, then we're going to create more connection. So, jealousy and judgment. And again, it's these kind of things that people find very taboo to talk about. Now, you can be jealous of your girlfriend going out. Is that jealousy or is that insecurity? That's insecurity, right? I have never been one to be jealous of a partner going out or having guy friends or anything like that. Nah, I'm not there. Places where I'm jealous is, but I know now that it's not jealousy, I know that it's insecurity. So for me, my jealousy had shown itself, which was great, because then when I managed to get out of the rumination around it, I managed to look at it and bring some healing towards it, which was more, for an example, there's a particular coach, or, you know, you've got folk that go out and do I've got to slag it, an NLP weekend, right? They go and do a NLP weekend, or they go and do a weekend with somebody and they're a certified coach, right? And I'm like, that, what? So there is an ethical point in that. You know, I've studied for years, right? But somebody goes along and does a 2-day training in a bloody hotel in Glasgow and they've got a certificate, I'm a coach now. What the heck? Wow, right? But what gets me is those people go out and actually do something with it, right? Whereas through my fear of failing, fear of whatever, I'm actually, I'll wait until I do another course. I'll wait until I get another qualification. I'll wait until I get another certification before I'll do something with it, and keep not ever doing anything with it. And then I see these people that are far less qualified, if you like, less insured, done a whole lot less work in themselves, and they've actually got loads of clients. Now, that used to make me jealous, but I wasn't really jealous. What it was doing was, it was easier for me to feel jealous and attack that external place than actually accept how insecure that I was feeling when I had to keep... does that make sense? I'm babbling a bit, but... So, jealousy doesn't really serve any positive. It's not really a very positive emotion. I don't really see anywhere where jealousy can be positive, and certainly not envy is a positive emotion. And anywhere that we are doing these acts of jealousy or envy is actually forcing us more into disconnection, more into a separated state of consciousness rather than a united field of consciousness. And if this coronavirus has taught me anything, it's that in times of hardship, we all actually can put our differences aside and get together and get on with it. And it's also taught me that we are all very much more connected than I had ever thought. And I've shared this before as well. I think the biggest lesson for me was that there's been a judgment that's just, without any work, has just lifted through this COVID-19 and this lockdown, that people are entitled to their own opinions. I may not necessarily agree with those opinions, but it's not my job to try and sway them to think my way. It's all right for them to think that way. And it's all right for me to think the way that I think. And I've lifted a level of judgment from that. I've noticed that through this 8 weeks that we've been in lockdown. And that actually feels very freeing. And what it's actually done is, it's opened up a lot more inclusion for me. So the people that, it just... automatically, it's almost like a bridge has been built for some reason, and the external world's mirroring that back to me, and I am finding myself having more fulfillment in the people that I'm talking to. And you know, there's a few of us get together in the morning, and there was a new guy came into the river the other day there, and man, you know, he's only 25, he's half my age, and I was listening to him talking, and there was absolutely no opinions or bias or judgment on what he was saying. And I thought, he's a really cool guy, right? Now, before there would have even been the judgment that, oh, he's 25. I can't talk to a 25-year-old guy. I'm old enough to be his dad. But in actual fact, when you lift that and you're able to see, we're all actually equal. And it doesn't matter what age you are. If you get on with somebody and they're 25, or you get on with somebody and they're 65, or 75, it actually doesn't matter. But our mind was tell us, oh, you can't run about with these kind of people. So my encouragement to this morning is, if you're interested in personal development and you're interested in looking at yourself, look at these areas where the mind is fractured and split around about feelings of jealousy, which is where you're comparing yourself to the external world and comparing yourself to an inner image of yourself that you've got that you're actually not able to portray. So you can be jealous of people in the external world, but there's also a level of jealousy against these internal parts of ourselves where we're all very fractured, and to look at judgment. So, oh, good morning, Gordon. Hope you're well. Never looked down at my phone there. I've just been babbling away. And have a fantastic day. Trying to find something to talk about tomorrow for Kay. We'll figure that out. Have a fantastic day. wish you all the very best. Pull back your judgments, pull back the projections. You know, every time you point a finger, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. Just ask yourself this question. What would the world look like if I was able to look at it through the eyes of a child? What would it look like if I could look at the world as innocent and I could pull back all these projections that I've got on my external world? Because really, anytime you judge something outside of yourself, you're judging yourself inside. And I've shared this story with somebody. I said, well, see, that's me. It's like an encore. I come back on. I shared this story with somebody recently. I was remembered working with this person, and they were very, very clean. They were obsessively clean. And we were taught, it was a client, and they were very, very pernickety about everything had to be like that. And their mother was very, very mucky, very messy, very dirty. And she was judging, talking about her mum. And I said, I don't suppose there's anywhere inside you that's like that. Oh, absolutely not. I'm the polar opposite. I'm like a clean freak. I'm like OCD with my cleaning. And I went, all right, okay. So that was never a compensation for saying that you would never, that was never a compensation. And she said, no, I remember it. I remember going into the house one night with my friends from school, and I went in and the place was an absolute tip. And I remember saying, I will never be like her. And I went, oh, that's a pretty big compensation then. So there was a fear, or indeed, look, there was a part of her, she'd been brought up in this messy and chaotic environment, of which she had to compensate for by being the exact opposite. It wasn't just like she was a wee bit clean, it was like she was OCD clean, to the point that the kids couldn't leave anything lying about, or it would make her feel anxious. But really the anxiety she was feeling was nothing about the cleanliness. It was about the compensation of what was running underneath it, was that the 14-year-old felt very, very anxious when she brought her friends into the house because the place was an absolute disaster, which filled her with shame. So even if you can turn around and say, well, I'm not like that, dig a wee bit deeper. Ask yourself, am I compensating for something that's inside me by not being able to see it? Now, Buddhist philosophy would have us think that everything in our reality is a mirror of us. And I think that's a great formulation. And I think that's excellent. And it's excellent when you can start to look at people that you've had real judgments on and pull back the judgments and accept that you're like that, because it's majorly empowering. And see those that just want to keep turning around and pointing the finger at you. When you get to a position where you're able to do it, you can start to feel empathy for these people, because they're living, those that are judging continually the external world and judging themselves, they're living in a very disempowered position. Now, even if they have a degree of authority in their life, where it looks on the surface that they're doing very well, they're actually not, because their inner critic is running the show. And probably, if you started to dig around that, their good job or their high-flying lifestyle is actually a compensation to project at the world that they're doing well, because inside they actually feel terrible. They feel very weak and incomplete and disconnected. So I'm definitely going to go this time. I'm wishing you a really fantastic, I'm wishing you a really fun K for kinesthetic. Excellent. Excellent, Willie. Right, everybody have a fantastic day. I'm off to trot on and get up and get on with it. And yeah, blessings to you all. Thanks for watching, thanks for sharing, thanks for posting comments and getting on this journey and starting to kind of dissect, because you want something more, and we're all entitled to something more. Definitely, we're all entitled to be free, and we're all entitled to be happy. Happiness is the most fantastic thing in the world. Contentment. Have a great day. God bless.